First offense shoplifting. What's going to happen to you? How do you deal with it? And how do you keep from being convicted? Well, my name is Lance Fryrear, and I'm the defender of justice.
Defender of justice. Defender of justice. Defender of justice.
I don't normally look like this. I look like this, and that's because I'm a defense attorney. I have a 5-attorney criminal defense firm located in Linwood, Washington, and my firm is defending people charged with crimes, including shoplifting, for more than 20 years. And let's face it, if you've been caught shoplifting, it's scary. And the bottom line is you probably didn't intend to do it. You probably didn't mean to do it. It's complicated. Some people may be watching this and think, oh yes, of course it was pre-planned. Believe me, from doing this for 20 years, it's usually not. And what I'm going to go through in this video is 3 things. One, what are the possible consequences of a first offense shoplifting? 2, what's likely to happen to you if you just go through the system and don't do a good job trying to help yourself. And finally, 3, how can an attorney oftentimes keep this from going on your record, keep you from being convicted of a first offense shoplifting in Washington State? So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. We'll get more information out there. Now I'm going to just jump right into it. So first offense shoplifting, what does that mean, and what's likely to happen? Well, if it's a misdemeanor case, less than $750 worth of value, then you're likely going to be cited into a municipal court if it happened in the city limits of a city like Linwood or Seattle. If it happened in an unincorporated area, it's going to take longer, and then they're going to go to a district court. And when I say cited, once you get stopped, by the security people, sometimes the police will be called and take your information, and sometimes the security people will do that themselves. You're probably going to be criminally trespassed from the property. If it's at a mall, it might be the entire mall. If it's just at a store like Target, maybe the Target. What that means, if you go back there, you're going to get charged with the crime of criminal trespass. You don't want to go back once you're trespassed. If the police show up and it's in the city limits, they might give you a ticket and tell you, hey, you're going to have a court date in 2 weeks. If you don't cooperate, if you're difficult, if you give a false name, they might arrest you and put you into jail. And if it's at the county level, they're going to say, hey, you're going to get a court date in a few months. If the police do not show up, do not assume that means there's not going to be a court date. Some cities, including Seattle and Bellevue, often don't have the police show up because they're too busy doing other things. So you want to reach out to an attorney, right? Don't just take things for granted. Don't put your head down in the soil and pay no attention, because if you did a shoplifting type thing and you weren't really planning it, we're usually depressed. We usually have a lot of anxiety. We're confused. We don't even know why it happened. We're embarrassed. We don't know who to share it with. So reach out to an attorney, someone like my firm or another firm local to your area. And, you're going to find that most defense attorneys are not going to make you feel bad. We're going to understand. We're going to try to fix the problem. So once you get a court date, then what is going to happen? What if you just don't get an attorney and you go to court? Well, on your first court date, it's called an arraignment. You're going to enter a plea of not guilty, I hope. Usually they don't let you plead guilty. And then you're going to need to apply for a public defender or try to get a private attorney later, because they're going to set pre-trial hearings. And you don't want to be representing yourself because then you could go to jail. What will happen then is your attorney hopefully will negotiate some type of result. It might be a plea of guilty if you don't have a private attorney. There could be some alternative programs available depending where you're at. But for the most part, you're not going to have to really talk about the case except to your attorney. You do not represent yourself, get a private attorney, or apply for a public defender if your income is low enough to qualify. I should also mention that you may get a demand for money from the store, okay? And basically it's a civil demand. There's a law in Washington State that says a shopkeeper, if they have something taken from them, Goodwill, anywhere, Costco, Walmart, a mom and pop shop, the law says that the shop can basically ask for liquidated damages. They can charge you the cost of the items that were not paid for, plus a certain additional amount. Could be $200, could be as high as $600. And so you may get a demand for money. What we advise our clients is, yes, we're going to want you to pay that, but only through our office, because sometimes we can use that demand for money to make a motion to dismiss your case for something called compromise of a misdemeanor. And we have another video on that. I think hopefully my team will link it right up here. But think of it this way. If the owner of the store has been civilly compensated and we can get proof of that, sometimes we can file this motion to get the court to dismiss your case because the legislature wrote a law allowing us to do that in some cases. So we'd rather not have you just pay them directly, because then it's hard for us to get proof. And if you don't pay them, they might sue you. Nothing big may happen, but usually want to use that to try to help you with your case. So moving on to the third thing, what can we do to try to help make sure this doesn't go on your record? It is not hopeless, right? A first offense shoplifting, first offense theft in the third degree is what they call it in this state, can often be kept from being a conviction on your record. And how do we do that? Well, one of the main ways is that compromise of misdemeanor statute. I think it's RCW 10.22.010. Hopefully I got that right. It's from memory. If you wanted to look it up. But basically, we want our clients to get us the civil demand if it got sent to you. And if you didn't get sent a civil demand, then we will try to contact the store or the store's representative to do that. Now, if it's Costco, they don't ask for money. There's a couple other stores that don't, so there can be some complications, but we also have some ways around that. If we can't get a compromise of misdemeanor case, then we want to try to use whatever's going on with your life to explain, not excuse, explain to the prosecutor what happened. Have you been, working 16 hours, 17 hours a week? Are you a nurse fighting COVID for the last year and a half, and so something snapped? Have you had depression? Has someone died in your family? These don't excuse what happened, but let me tell you, law-abiding people can react in different ways to pressure and stress and mental issues and hopelessness. And I didn't know that when I was a prosecutor. When I was a prosecutor, I didn't get to talk to the defendants, and now I'm a defense attorney, my clients. And so I can see and I can hear what's going on. We feel so terrible. However low we felt, we even feel lower now because of what's happened. And often we want to keep it to ourselves. We're embarrassed and ashamed, and it doesn't have to be like that. I've got another video, which hopefully my team will link to here. Also, that there's nothing wrong with you if you're charged with a crime for this type of thing. And I cover that in more depth about why these things happen. But we want to use some of that with the prosecutor. We can potentially have you do some counseling to try to make the most out of the crisis. We can sometimes get you into a community court if that exists. Certain places have that, Redmond and Seattle, to name a few. And in many courts, if we can't get a compromise, if we do the right things, we might be able to get into a stipulated order of continuance. And that's a contract between you and the government, where if you do certain things and don't do other things, that hopefully we can get them to agree to dismiss your case. Why it's important is theft is one of the worst things you can have on your record. The DUI, believe it or not, it's not going to hurt you with employment, right? For the most part, unless you're driving an ambulance or a fire truck, right? It's criminal traffic. But theft is a crime of dishonesty. And let me tell you, most employers don't want to hire someone who's been convicted of theft. Now, if the case gets dismissed, will it be on your record? Well, that depends. It depends if you got fingerprinted or not. In Washington State, your official criminal history is basically maintained by the Washington State Patrol, and they go off of fingerprints will show up for an arrest, right? Or convictions. So if you never got fingerprinted and you're not convicted, my opinion is it will not be on your official criminal history. It may show up other places. There are lots of private companies that collect information to sell, identity.com, things like this. So it may not be totally invisible, but it could be officially invisible on your official criminal history. So if you're in one of these cities where you get a little sheet, and they're going to remain nameless for this video, if you get a little sheet that says go get fingerprinted on your own, my advice is to contact an attorney to see if that's real, to see if that's enforceable, because the difference in your entire life can be whether or not you got fingerprinted or not. So I tell my clients that, hey, there's a little sheet that says get fingerprinted. I'll tell my clients, throw it out. I can't tell you what to do because this isn't legal advice, but reach out to an attorney if that's your situation. So the bottom line is, on a first offense shoplifting that's not likely you're going to go to jail, I'm not even talking about going to jail or not. I'm talking about being convicted or not, because I don't want you convicted. Everyone gets to make a mistake. We're going to figure out why it happened. We're going to try to make the most of the crisis, and we're going to try to make it so you can go on with your life. So if you're in this situation, feel free to reach out to us. If you found this video helpful, please like and please subscribe, and we'll be happy to talk to you and see what we can do to get you to a better day. We'll be there for you. Thank you.